Hi everyone, we're going to cover today the topics we learn about in Chapter 8, covering vision concepts and lighting. As an overview, we're going to look at the camera function as it functions as a sensor, what that means in terms of the grayscale values. We'll do a quick review of pixels and resolution and lenses and how they control lighting. And then we'll also look at external lighting for vision systems, both the front versus the back. And different lighting strategies. So how does the camera work? The camera is comprised of a chip that has an array of photosite sensors on them. Each of the photosites register a voltage value as well as a location value to the processor. Here we've got an example of photosites as they're absorbing light. We've got some photosites that are absorbing less light than others, while some are absorbing quite a bit of light. So the value of 0 to 255 for the grayscale value is really an 8-bit register that relates the amount of voltage that the array is, or that the photosite is absorbing. So a photosite of pure black would be 0, a photosite that is reached its maximum limit in terms of the light it can receive, which would be a 8-bit register of all ones. So 160 would be with both the 8th and the 6th bit as ones, all the rest would be zeros. So each of those photosites is what makes a pixel in our image. So in camera resolution, we identify that as the number of pixels along the height of the sensor and multiplied by the number of pixels along the width of that sensor. So in this case, we've got 42 pixels on the height, 47 pixels along the width. Multiplied together, we'd get an image that has 1,974 pixels. So by way of comparison, a 1 megapixel camera has approximately 1 million pixels as part of that sensor. And what does that mean in terms of resolution? So when we look at an image resolution, that's really dependent upon the field of view, so the area that the camera can see, as well as the camera resolution. So in this example, we've got two parts. Both are the same part, but one takes up much more of the field of view, so we're zoomed in. So we get a lot higher resolution on that part because more pixels are required in order to generate the part, or the image of the part. Whereas in the second example, we've got that same part where we're zoomed away, so it doesn't take up nearly as much of the field of view. So we require less pixels in order to generate the image. So that image would appear more granular or more pixelated than the first example. So lenses is a way that we can control light entering into the camera sensor and onto the sensor plate. So we have a couple of different items that we can adjust on our camera lens, both the focus as well as the aperture. So the focus is able to adjust the distance between lenses, creating the focal point where we would need it so that we get nice crisp edges on that sensor plate. The aperture controls the iris opening that controls how much light is allowed into or onto that sensor plate while the shutter is open. So the lens focal length is the distance between the lens and the image sensor of the camera. So depending on the length that we are able to select, that defines our field of view of that lens or of that camera. So a short focal length allows for a larger field of view, however, or a larger angle of view. However, the image becomes more distorted as it gets to the outer edge. A shorter focal length will allow us a narrower field of view, but the image would be less distorted as it gets to those outer edges of the view. All right, we're going to switch gears now and look at different lighting techniques. Most of our lighting techniques can break down into three basic strategies. We've got our partial bright field, where the light is emitted from the light source and more in line with our camera as it reflects back. And then we also have our dark field lighting strategy, where the light is angled such that it's 45 degrees or less to the work plane. So a lot of the light that is received by the camera is this peripheral light, or light that isn't directly in line with the light source. Then we also have a backlighting, where the lighting emits from behind the part. So we lose a lot of surface features or visibility of the surface features of the part, as the light only outlines the silhouette of the part. So here's two examples of the bright field and the dark field lighting. So here we've got a plate with these marks in the plate. In the bright field, we see a lot of the surface texture of the part, and then anywhere there was the boss, that pretty much disappears, or as a black mark. However, on the dark field, we don't see any of the surface of the part anymore, except where we have those protruding bosses, and so the dark field is able to pick those up quite well. And a couple of other light examples that we can use are flat diffuse lighting, where this might be something like a ring light that is connected onto the camera. And this would be similar to what we would be using in the lab. If we were in there, it's just a ring light that goes around the camera. There's also axial lighting, which goes through a two-way mirror. So the camera can see the lighting that is directly in line with the camera. We also have a flat diffuse, where the light is projected up onto a dome surface and then reflected down into the surface of the part. And then, like we mentioned before, our backlighting as another type. All right, filters are something we can use to process the lighting or filter through the lighting. And there's quite a few different types of filters, from IR filters to polarized filters to band pass filters. And I'm going to touch base on the band pass filter here in this example. So here we've got a label we're trying to see, and we can't see a lot of the information on that label. However, by applying a blue band pass filter, it only allows the blue lighting to filter through to the camera. And in that case, now we've got an image of the label that has a lot of contrast to it and is easily seen.